Hi there. My name is Joyce Marter. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, national public speaker, and the author of The Financial Mindset Fix, a mental fitness program for an abundant life. Thank you for joining my presentation called Mental Wealth: How to Promote Both Mental Health and Financial Health. As a therapist, I am an impassioned advocate for removing the shame and stigma about mental health challenges as well as financial struggle. You'll hear that I became very interested in the psychology of money and my journey as an entrepreneur and the founder and owner of Urban Balance, which is a national outpatient mental health company. So today, our first video here is about the intrinsic relationship between mental health and financial health. I noticed something really interesting in my practice. As my clients started to make progress in therapy, and it didn't matter what their presenting issue was, whether it was depression, anxiety, relationship issues, addiction, stress, challenges with work-life balance, things that we all maybe experience or are touched by in our lives, as they started to make progress in therapy, they started to earn more money. Client after client was coming in reporting that they had gotten a raise or a promotion or were starting their own business or side hustle. And I was like, why in the world is this happening? I'm not even talking with them about their finances. But I realized that it's because we're always working in therapy on our underlying self-worth or self-esteem. And as we feel better about ourselves, we put ourselves out in the world differently with more confidence. We expand our comfort zones by trying new things and putting ourselves out there. We behave more assertively in our communication. We set healthier boundaries in our relationships, including financially. And we negotiate. All of this has an impact on our financial wellness. In my own journey, I'd like to share with you that when I first started graduate school at Northwestern University in the middle of the 90s, I was really afraid that my professors were going to see that I dealt with an anxiety disorder. I would wring my hands in class. I was petrified to be called on in class. I had a huge fear of public speaking. I struggled with low self-esteem, and if I was called on, my voice shook with fear. Thankfully, the professors in our program recommended that all the therapists in training seek our own personal counseling or therapy. And this transformed my life. It helped me learn new tools and skills to manage my anxiety and take better care of myself and function better personally and professionally. And the main ingredient of that work was fostering my emotional intelligence, which is why I feel very aligned with Equipped to Achieve. And in this presentation, you're going to learn about how to improve your emotional intelligence to improve your mental health and financial health. So in my own story, I grew up, my father grew up in the Great Depression, and he had a scarcity mindset about money. So when I was an adolescent, he was unemployed. He worked in the automotive industry and had tremendous financial shame and anxiety. And by nature or nurture, I inherited that. So I had a lot of fear and anxiety about money. I, avoided talking about money because I was ashamed. And all of this played out in my business. As I started a business, I started it with $500 and $50,000 of student loans. I made 1,000 mistakes and ended up in what I call cash flow hell. I had difficulty paying my staff and my rent, and it was terrifying. I had insomnia and suffered from panic attacks. Our financial health definitely impacts our mental health. And I ended up using strategies that I'd used in my clinical training to turn the ship around, to save my business. And I eventually was able to sell it 4 years ago for more money than I would have ever imagined that I would make in a lifetime. So I shared everything that I learned from my clients and my own entrepreneurial journey in my book, The Financial Mindset Fix. And in this series, you're getting an overview of everything that I share in the book. I believe that 12 mindsets lead to holistic success. And each of these 12 mindsets that I identified through working with my clients are empirically proven to improve both mental health and financial health. My program is a step-by-step program with exercises. So you need to do the work to build the skills to cultivate these mindsets. Some of them include abundance, having an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset, like I mentioned my father had. Having awareness, having self-awareness and awareness of others, that's having emotional intelligence, being present in the moment. Many of us ruminate about the past or worry about the future when peace and our best financial decisions are found in the present moment. Compassion for ourselves and for others. This is the key to success, having support, having supportive relationships, people that we can lean on, and fostering resilience, both mentally and financially. So again, each of these mindsets leads to a holistic life of mental well-being, supported relationships, work-life balance, and financial prosperity. I am happy that my book came out in 2021, very recently in July, because the world especially needs a mental health and financial health resource at this time. The COVID-19 pandemic has wreaked havoc on our mental health and financial health. We are living through a global trauma. And we cannot process traumas like we do usual life experiences. They get locked in our psyches and our bodies. We might have PTSD symptoms, which is a common response to the pandemic. So I want you to think about yourself and the kids that you're either raising or teaching and honor the stressors of the pandemic. We've all been dealing with concerns for the health and safety of ourselves and our loved ones. We've had less social support and we've been isolated at times. I live in Chicago and my daughter is a junior in high school and she spent a year and a half e-learning and has been hybrid learning occasionally until she very recently went back to school. So less social support for our kiddos and for ourselves. Many of us have had relationship conflict. It's been stressful living and working from home. I can't even imagine for educators and parents of young children how difficult this period must have been or still is. We're still managing a lot of uncertainty and change. We've had challenges managing work-life balance, especially as those boundaries have become more and more blurred from working at home and having e-learning and hybrid learning environments. Many of us have been dealing with challenges of dependent care, whether it's our children or young adult children who've moved home or caring for elderly parents. All of this leads to financial stress. Some of us have loved ones who've lost their jobs during the pandemic or have closed businesses. And all of this has an impact on our financial health and our mental health. Some common conditions during the pandemic are anxiety, grief and loss, depression, PTSD, which some people think that post-traumatic stress disorder is only for war veterans or people who've survived horrible assault, but actually finances can be traumatic as well. This is a list of some financial traumas, and perhaps you've been through some of these, or perhaps your family or the students that you're working with. So if you've experienced or your students or your kids are experiencing racism or discrimination or marginalization based on ethnicity or race or gender identity, that is something that can have financial implications that can be traumatic. Living in poverty is a financial trauma. I've worked with countless clients who've grown up in poverty and have a scarcity mindset because they did go without. And they had traumatic experiences of not having enough food, or simple basic things like toilet paper or deodorant or warm clothing. Very, very traumatic. Having a bankruptcy, having a foreclosure, or even going through a divorce can be financially traumatic. So honoring how those experiences have impacted you and how they've impacted your mental health. Even before the pandemic, 23% of adults and 36% of millennials dealt with financial stress levels that met the criteria for PTSD. Financial distress accounts for 16% of suicides, which is very alarming and very concerning. And during the pandemic, the highest increase in suicidal ideation has been among adolescents and young adults in the age group of 16 to 24. So as parents and educators, we definitely need to have mental health on our radar and also understand how financial health and financial stress impacts our kids. What do you think the mental health and financial health connection is? What have you experienced? What do you see in your work and in your life? Do you see mental health issues impacting finances? When we're experiencing depression or anxiety or burnout, we might not be as productive or effective in our work, and this can have financial implications. Our self-worth, when our confidence is low, that can negatively impact our finances. Relationship issues can impact finances. I'm going to talk about codependency and overfunctioning for others. Financial stress can definitely impair our mental health, creating anxiety and depression, even suicidal ideation. So we want to honor how burnout also has impacted our mental and financial health. So in my presentations, we're going to be talking about your psychology of money. You're going to have an activity after this first video where you're going to explore your family of origin experiences or your financial traumas to understand how they've shaped your thoughts, your emotions and beliefs and behaviors, and your relationship with money. We all know that the basics of money management is not rocket science. We need to earn more than we spend, and we need to save and invest and for the future. But it's our psychology that makes it difficult. We often cause self-limitation. Because of fear or lack or a scarcity mindset or not having confidence in ourselves, we set our own ceilings. I did this early on in my practice. I set goals of how much money I wanted to make. And I noticed I met those goals, but I didn't make more than that. And it wasn't until later that I facilitated an abundant mindset that my financial life began to transform. And it wasn't just finances, it was my love life, other areas of my life. I had more support. An abundant mindset means that you believe that there's more than enough love, support, money, food, and other resources for all of us. And we don't need to be competitive or fearful. When we harness the power of intention, we can leverage self-fulfilling prophecy. So when we think positively and we set our intentions positively, we shape our financial reality. So I want to help you shift your thinking to positive psychology and expand your comfort zones so that you can welcome the life that you deserve. Healthy self-esteem, I always say, is midway between diva and doormat, and dudes can be divas too. Divas are entitled and grandiose. They can be aggressive, and they're not respectful of other people's boundaries. They may be overspenders. The doormat is not respectful of his or herself, and they allow their own boundaries, including financial, to be compromised. They may be under earners. Both the diva and the doormat actually suffer from low self-esteem. It just manifests differently. So healthy self-esteem is in the middle, and healthy self-esteem is where we recognize our strengths and talents. We also recognize that we're not perfect. We're all works in progress. We take responsibility for ourselves, and we communicate assertively in a way that's honest, direct, clear, emotionally intelligent and respectful and compassionate. And we set healthy financial boundaries in our relationships. This is the relationship between ego and money. So the diva and the doormat are two aspects of ego. But when we align with our essence, which is our deeper, higher self, we can align with our purpose, our unique gifts that we're given, and align them with a need in the world. Being a parent, being a teacher, these are such important roles. So what are your unique gifts that you bring to your children, to your classroom, to your family? How can you get over imposter syndrome and perfectionism and really practice self-love and end self-sabotage so that you can cultivate more prosperity in your family and in your career and in your community? And this is not selfish. When you have more, you can help more. When we earn more money, we can be philanthropists, we can give to charities, we can support others. So it's not selfish to promote our own self-esteem or self-worth and our financial health and wellness. That's all extremely important. So I want you to know it starts with you. It starts with your relationship with yourself. And remember, you are always enough, period. That's it. No buts, no excuses. You're enough. So I'm going to help you shift your relationship with yourself to turn down the volume of your inner critic and become your own loving parent, best friend, and greatest advocate. I'm not the only one who noticed this important relationship between self-worth and net worth. Susie Orman, the financial advisor and best-selling financial author, said that she noticed that your net worth will only rise to when your self-worth rises to accept what can be yours. So in the next module, we're going to talk about how to work on your mental health and your self-worth so that you can have mental and financial resilience. And in the third video, we're going to talk about your financial health. So don't forget to download the resources. So that's available through EQ 2A. And it's also available through this QR code that you can hold up with your phone. And you can access a landing page with copies of these slides and all of the other resources. I look forward to seeing you in the next module too. Thank you.